Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the Groovy Podcast. I am Ken Cousin, and this is...
And I'm Baruch.
Sodergursky, who has an aversion to saying his own last name.
Bottles,
right?
Since yesterday, yeah.
Right, which we'll have to explain.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
We are live from Great Conf in Minneapolis, and you see we even have a cast of thousands, seemingly.
Including them.
It's going to be that kind of podcast.
Yes,
exactly.
it will.
Yes,
it will.
So, do you want to talk about the news items first, or do we talk to people?
Who cares about the news items? We have live audience. When last time we had that?
You can move in a little. Nobody can see you. That's it. That's what you're going to do.
Live audience. No one cares about me.
Sigh. All right. Well, what do you want to? If you want to talk to the live audience, we'll say that Great Conf has been going on all week. There was a tutorial day on the first day, and followed by 2 days of presentations that ended, less than half an hour ago, something like that.
Yeah, we have a tendency to a little bit exaggerate. 3 days, we call it a week, and this audience, we call it a huge crowd. Everything's good.
And I see we have Dan Velver. So we don't have Craig or...
no,
yeah, I mean,
Craig is not here.
The other people have been battling all week long, right? Who else don't we have? Who is
Sean is not here.
Okay.
No, but thanks for whoever is here.
Yeah, because there's been running battles throughout the week. They've been very entertaining, frankly. But all right, what do we want to talk about first?
So I think what I had in mind is just going around the audience and asking what are your impressions from the conference. What was the highlight, the most interesting parts, maybe which particular announcements did you like the most, this kind of stuff. You'll have to speak up to reach this tiny microphone, but it'll be fine.
Oh, well, Ryan's here.
All right. I was busy in the first day because I had Alexa's talk. I did 2 workshops. We did a Lego Mindstorms Groovy workshop half of the first day, and then the other half of the day we did a Amazon Alexa workshop where we did lambdas and Groovy and then Grails and skills, and that was really good. And then the next day we did a Alexa talk where we my friend Lee, who helped present with me, did a superhero quiz with Baruch. So during that interaction, we said, say your name. And it's like, Baruch comes up, Baruch, and it says, Bottles. You're Bottles.
I heard Bottles.
I heard Bottles. So that's now Baruch's nickname.
Yeah, and now I have a name for Starbucks. I tried it this morning. They misspelled Bottles.
Misspelled Bottles,
yeah.
So, right, Ryan, as we know, is our Internet of Things person, I guess you'd say, right?
Or do-it-yourself
person. Working with Alexa, working with, what other hardware was it?
Lego Mindstorms.
Lego Mindstorms, right.
Yep. So, yeah, it's been a really great conference. It's been great to be here, and all of the talks, a lot of speakers are here. It was super awesome. Everything went without a hitch. Looking forward to watching some of the videos and talks that I missed. And I'm going to do a wrap-up post on the Rails team blog of the impressions of the conference, too.
Great.
That's right. That's also representing OCI.
Yes.
Sasha, go ahead.
Yeah, I really appreciate to be here. I still appreciate it, and really happy.
Still,
really great.
Even after whatever you saw.
Yes, still.
Wow.
Even after a long trip over the sea, and have been really great. Had been my first time in Great Conf in Minneapolis. Had a lot of great talks that I saw.
You want to mention the ones you gave?
Yes, well, I have my 3 talks. One about Groovy effects, have been a starter, beginning of the conference. We're showing up how Groovy could simplify life with writing desktop applications. I got some great response, so that's have been really great for me as well. And the second one had been Bob the Builder, about the Groovy builder pattern, and a bit about Java builder pattern. That's for my daily work is really something I do very often. I'm wrapping up today with a talk about Groovy with Jenkins, where Groovy can help out and where Groovy can make your life a bit easier.
the new Jenkins 2, which is built on Groovy.
Yes, Jenkins 2 has Groovy support built in, but you still can do that with Jenkins 1. But
Who uses this old crap? Jenkins 1.
I
We
would
have
say,
Jenkins 2 out for a month or so.
I would say almost anyone I know. I think the most important part for me really is going to a conference and meeting a great bunch of great people, meeting old friends, making new friends, and enjoying the community. I would say that is the greatest thing in community.
And Dan.
And Sasha, and you want a book?
Yes, and I want a
you want a
book.
book.
Really,
And
Yeah.
then sign the book.
yes.
Wow.
Sign the book.
Ruin the,
I'm
sign
really
the
happy.
Value's destroyed now.
Yeah, he didn't
Especially when you
sign
write
the
something
book.
insulting.
Now you cannot sell it even.
No, I won't
It's
sell
destroyed. It's
it.
ruined.
No,
Ruined.
I won't sell it, and now I don't have any excuse to not use Redpack anymore. So I will promise to do it more often.
Yeah, I thought you will say no excuse for not reading the book, but apparently you are not desperate as much.
Ouch.
We don't want to put too much pressure on anybody. Anybody else like to talk about what they did or what presentations they gave or anything like that?
Or what did they like?
enjoyed, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, Soren.
Hi. I didn't do anything,
Good!
which is actually nice when you're a conference organizer and get a chance to go to a conference and just get the content.
Not organizing.
Yes, no organizing. So very nice and very well executed conference. I'm proud that this is also a great conference.
Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you.
What are the main differences that you can spot between GreatConf Europe and GreatConf US?
Differences. They have one more track than we do. I don't know if that's a big difference, but it is.
I mean, like
It's
a little bit of.
it's a more diverse crowd that we have in Denmark because they come from 21 different countries. Here it's mostly US folks and me and a few other
And
speakers.
Sasha.
No hacker garden.
And there's no hacker garden, that's true.
That's a pity.
That's true. We need to get Andres here. I'll be ready for that, right?
Yeah.
And the beer was good here too, but
That's right. This is the first year that GreatConf in the US has had branded GreatConf beer.
Yeah, and you have it for how many years?
this year was the 5th year.
Yeah, so you see there is
Yeah.
some catch up to do.
It is now.
Beer is beer.
Anybody else?
Got lots of speakers.
Steve,
Yeah, a lot
you
of
gave a
speakers.
couple of talks. You want to say something?
Sure, yeah, I had the.
First, say who you are.
So, my name is Steve Pember. I was also a speaker here. I had the unpleasant, let's say, situation to have 2 talks in a row, the last 2 slots in the same room. So I was talking nonstop for about 2 hours plus. But it went really well. I'm being facetious. I gave a talk on reactive streams, so
Which-
Arc, Java, Redpack.
That was well attended, the Reactive Streams talk. A lot of people there for that.
Yeah, I was getting a lot of good questions. I find it to be
Speak up, Steve.
It's a pretty interesting subject. It's very complicated though. And, so I rambled through a bunch of things and hopefully helped out some people. Then the second talk I gave was on a library called
Juke, J-O-O-Q, just
the Java Object-Oriented Querying. It's a library for building type-safe SQL queries. So if you're a fan of thinking about your application in terms of the data model, the underlying data model you have,
Or you just don't like ORM.
or you just don't like ORM, which is tough considering all the recent announcements that were just given, for things like RxStorm. It's a shame that it.
yeah, we'll get back to that.
You have to use Mongo with it.
Can't you just write an implementation?
Right, JDBC. All right.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, basically. What else? But yeah, it was good. Well, in fact, at the end, I had one lady who was there because she didn't like it.
That's great. Thank you very much. I was at least one of those. I meant to come to 2, but that was the problem I had. There were so many competing talks that I wanted to see at the same time that I am looking forward to the videos coming out. Oh, okay, I'm not the only one. Good to hear that.
4 tracks. Can't do 4
I
places
mean,
at once.
I missed Dan, and missed the harassment too, which was, I didn't miss all the harassment because that's what the Twitter feed was for. Right? I should mention that Danny is here. You and Dan were bringing up the Rat Pack side of things, right?
And John.
Oh, and John, right. Back there too. John, of course,
And we
had,
brought apparel this year too.
well, you had the feature. You had the youngest Rat Pack developer ever, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She had, was it 5 weeks? Was it?
She's 8. She's 8 weeks.
8 weeks and has
So
that
for people
beautiful.
on the podcast last night at the app. So if you haven't, Aaron Zerbe's, I think, coined the perfect term. He referred to it as a microservice. Perfectly appropriate.
Get into all issues of cleanup and things. Yeah, I don't know what
Service discovery.
Garbage collection is not automatic.
So what did you, which talks did you give? I don't remember specifically.
I did a talk on Rat Pack, using Rat Pack outside of doing web requests stuff. So we had kind of a mini Rat Pack.
Correct. Yeah. Half a day of Rat Pack.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
No, almost a full day.
3 talks.
We only missed one. Yeah.
Yeah, Dan did the beginner Rat Pack talk, as I recall,
Yep.
right? The basic one, and you live coded it too?
Actually, we didn't realize this before, but all 3 of us live coded our presentations. So
That's what Rat Pack do to you, I guess.
yeah, that's right.
We're all channeling Luke. Luke walks into a presentation. He's like, "Let's get started." He starts writing code.
Again, for those who don't know, that's Luke Daly, who is he the actual head of the project or just one of the, he's the head of the Rat Pack project, as well as being a big developer at Gradle Inc. So I don't call him Gradleware by accident again. Yeah, very good. And
Just
Dan,
did.
They're and actually, Ken, they're just Gradle now.
well, then how do you distinguish when you're talking about them, Gradle the company from Gradle the technology?
Because Gradle the technology is now the Gradle build tool.
Oh, that's
This
true.
is
To go
so.
with Gradle Cloud Services.
Right.
Come on.
And we made that joke last time. It was
I
Gradle
think
build
when
tool
I
is.
saw you out at the summit and they talked about this.
You expect me to remember all this? Yeah. But it was GPT for Gradle build tool, and L
Oh,
was
seriously?
the Lucky Gradle build tool. Did we use L for Lucky on that one, or was it L for something else for the LGBT? The Lucky Gradle build tool. Yes, you're going to change the logo to be a Gradle family in rainbow colors and all that. Yeah. Okay, I thought that was funnier at the time. Anyway, but Danny, you also did at least one. Maybe.
I did the sandwich. So I had 6 hours of intro Groovy on Thursday, and that was a lot of fun. We did a lot of Pokemon there. So if you want to review my notes, you can go to my notes. We took the Java API and made it so that we can look at Pokemon.
What does the Java API do for that?
It uses OK HTTP client and some protobuf messages, right? And then it just marshals these things back and forth all through one interface, and then you just consume that interface from Groovy. So we put together everything we learned from Groovy, like maps and lists and transforming things.
Danny, how many people attended?
That I think there are about 60 people now.
Wow. Wow. That's great. Yep.
That's great and groovy. What a great thing at a great con.
Not great.
Not great.
Great
Did
with
that.
K.
Yeah. So at the very beginning for 6 hours, and then just today before John talked about testing in Rat Pack, and I tried to prove like how developer-friendly Rat Pack is. It's really focused on getting things done, not requiring 50 annotations.
How big is that team now?
11.
Wow.
11 people all working on Rat
That's
Pack?
more than Grails.
In our spare time.
All right. That's the
We're
difference.
not full time working on Rat.
But also, Luke is the 1% that owns 99% of the
Yeah.
clients. So,
Very generous of you, yes. Anybody else like to talk about what they did or what they?
I know you want to ask them. You can do it.
I want to lead
I
Dan
want to
till.
make a
All right. What's
comment
what?
though.
Oh.
really the best thing about these conferences are kind of like the hallway conversations that happen.
Mm.
So the community is great, right? Like you see that on the internet, but it's even better when it's in person. You can just go and say, hey, what are you doing? What are you up to? And those are the things that you miss when you're watching the YouTube videos. So you got to be here to be in it to win it, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only downside is I wind up missing talks because I managed to corner Jeff Brown, and if you're going to get a chance to talk to Jeff Brown about Grails, you do it, you know.
See, that's another thing you can do. Like you can talk to the project leads at conferences like these and be like, why isn't my bug being addressed, right?
In your face conversation goes.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Very good.
I mean, you get to talk about things that you don't normally get to do inside of like a GitHub request or an issue or something like that. So, really great opportunity here to do that.
I guess we have to go to Dan then.
Yeah, I think extending on what Danny was just saying, that's a really big part. I think it's been over a year since I had the opportunity to talk to Graham. So he wasn't here very long, just the first day and part of the second day. But getting the chance to sit down and talk with him and hear all about the Grails project experience working with RxJava and some of the stuff that they're working on. It's really great, just to hear directly from him his mindset about a lot of the decisions that they're making and the things that they're doing. Also things like Grails, they're obviously a huge thing in the community, and it's not something that I personally get a lot of time or exposure to. So having the opportunity to sit down and talk with him and hear all of these new things that are going on, that's really a really awesome thing. Besides that, I think so my talk today, I had a lot of fun. I don't usually do just full live coding. I usually have a slide deck prepared and stuff like that. This is a shorter talk than we usually give, Ken. So 45, 50 minutes for doing these, it's perfect. And for something like Rat Pack, which is fundamentally different from Grails and servlets, Spring Boot, that kind of stuff, you kind of need to spend that time actually demonstrating it, right? So that was a fun thing to do, and of course we had a blast with puzzlers. That was fun. I enjoyed it. We went a little bit longer than we probably should have, but it was worth it.
I wonder who added like 2 puzzlers on the fly later.
Yeah.
After it was already over.
We got to do 2 Rat Pack puzzlers, which was great. It's
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think Sasha enjoyed it. We had fun, right?
That's fun.
So we need to add some background for the people who weren't here. First of all, Graham did the keynote on Grails and future changes in Grails. That included the upcoming 3.2 release. They put out Milestone 2 a day before the conference started. They're aiming for the end of the third quarter.
That's what we call conference-oriented development.
Right. Conference-driven development,
Yeah.
CDD. Yeah. And then a big part of that, of course, is the reactive GORM part, which they use so that led to a lot of discussions about reactive being one of the big buzzwords of 2016, really, going on a lot of that. That's also Steve had his talks on reactive streams as well. And then the puzzlers, I imagine you'll want to talk about later. I still am kind of sad that one of the puzzlers was an actual bug inside of Groovy,
Well,
that makes it really hard.
Yeah, that's true. So sometimes we can't resist ourselves. So it's the bug itself is so funny and produces so weird results that we just too tempted to edit, and it's not fair, right? But one per season, I guess that's fun.
Well, and the other piece of information that people on watching need to know, of course, is that you kept using a teaser all week to say there was going to be a guest host with you on the Groovy Puzzlers and wouldn't say who it was. And as it turned out, it was the infamous Dan Developer. And I don't know how many people unfollowed you as a result, but we'll see.
Yeah, so the whole idea was bringing the unfollowed Dan Developer to the big screen.
That's right.
That's the only reason I have him to have this slide with unfolding.
And I'm sure that the people at Object Partners would be very happy if we at least mentioned that that's where the Puzzlers was held, as we had a get-together last night at their new site, which had a very unfortunate address. Did you happen to notice that? The address has, on the brick building, it says 1515 Central, something like that. But if you look at it from a distance, it looks like ISIS Central. Yes, it's not a good address there.
We all noticed.
But they were very kind to host us, and they also were a major sponsor of the conference as well as OCI and
Target.
And
Target.
Yeah, Target was here. They had a booth. They were talking to people as well.
And there
was at least
To the
one
new
more.
Also.
Who am I leaving out?
To the new.
To the new, right? Of
Yeah.
course, our friends in India who put in a lot of work into this as well, and it's a long trip.
Yeah.
So I guess all the speakers spoke about how great they were.
Was there
Now
anybody-
someone from not speakers want to
wait a
say
minute, but
something.
we missed Alexander, right? I mean, didn't you give a talk as well, or not Alexander? I thought you gave a talk as well, didn't you?
I'm not talking until G3.
Oh, well, that figures. All right, never mind.
Come see my top here, though.
Yeah, right. Did you give any talks other than the Puzzlers?
What do you mean other than Puzzlers? I gave the Puzzlers.
Okay, I did my little talk on Gradle recipes for Android.
Yeah, and I had the
I
keynote
had that other, keynote as well.
about Kotlin, basically.
Moving on. Anybody who hasn't had a chance to say anything, did you enjoy it? Do you have any impressions? Anything you want to mention? Any talks you
Got
like?
my first experience with ADD, alcohol-driven development.
That also is referring to the Groovy Puzzlers, right? Because each time I never did quite figure out what the condition was.
The rules were
where-
loose.
Yeah, there was supposed to be a rule as to when you took a drink, and it turned out to be we were combining a Russian background with Dan Developer.
Yeah, so the problem, we had different set of rules, me and them, and we drank for both. So we basically
Did you finish that bottle?
no, but we got a good chunk of it, and it was with beer. So yeah.
Okay.
But it was fun because I was pouring them, and so I would pour Baruch's like double. And I would just give
Everyone
myself
noticed that,
a
by
little
the way.
splash.
And he saw that I didn't notice.
Yeah.
The baby didn't
Or
get.
didn't
Baby
mind.
drank something else.
But actually, I didn't mind.
Yeah.
It was good whiskey.
It was a good whiskey. Yep.
Anybody else? Anything they'd like to say?
I think one of the
Sorry, would you say who you are?
I'm Rishi Desai. I am a developer at Nationwide.
Hmm.
So I think one of the things that I found really fascinating was the breadth that the Groovy covers in right now, and it continues to demolish the misconception or the myth of being slow, because I found out so many organizations using Groovy and doing incredible job at scaling Groovy-based applications. So I think that was something really that fascinated me.
And that's exactly what your keynote was about, the perceptual problem. Right, fight it. That's
Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else who hasn't had a chance to say anything? No pressure. You don't have to. You're not obligated. Just want to give
But
you a
you
chance. Don't want you to be overlooked either if you feel you want to say something. Other than Dan, because we've already heard from Dan. That's enough. No? I should just mention, first of all, that we said that Grail's released their 3.2 milestone 2. Since we had a podcast last, Gradle released a very small point version. They're 2.14.1 now. I don't remember the last time they were a third dot on there. So I imagine it was just mostly bug fixes.
yeah,
on that.
I'm probably some critical bug that need to be fixed in the
And I don't know that there were any other major releases. I did feel bad that last time we forgot to mention that the Groovy Android plugin actually went 1.0.
Oh,
The
that's a big deal.
1.0.0,
Yep.
right. That's I believe that's Andrew Wrights, who was actually here and giving a talk, but he didn't I don't know how much of it was about that, but he was here, and it's just want to make sure we acknowledge that he was doing that. I also want to mention just who is here. Of course, we're having this podcast after the conference is formally ended, so and with not a lot of warning. So some people, of course, have already taken off.
We have 4 viewers, like 4 whole complete viewers.
And how many are in this room? I don't
No,
even
none of them. That's what's amazing, because we expected that all the listeners are actually here, but we have 4 people online.
And they came willingly. You know, of course, we shut the door, so they can't just walk out.
Yeah, now they cannot.
But I want to mention, I one of the ones that tends to get overlooked, Craig Atkinson, was talking about Jeb, and he's the Jeb master. That's the guy I want to go to whenever I wonder about how Jeb is. And he did both a beginning Jeb talk and a tips and tricks talk, and both of those have slides available on the internet. He posted it on his Twitter feed. So if you're at all interested in Jeb, then it's definitely worth checking out. His slides and his code as well, I believe, is always available on GitHub. I imagine all of the code from the speakers will eventually be available on GitHub as well. That's how they normally do it. Any other talks jump out at you that I can bring up the schedule if you need to see? Oh, you got that.
Yeah,
But that's only one day.
No, it's both days.
Girls 3.1.10 came out too.
Right. Grails 3.1.10 was released like a couple hours before I had to give the keynote, so I installed it right there because, you know, what could go wrong, right? And that worked just fine. But I didn't notice there were any major changes in it. There were a bunch of small but interesting things that were updated. I put a link in the show notes to the release note. Anything that you noticed in it?
No, as far as I know, it's just bug fixes.
Yeah.
You know, the new shiny things are going in 3.2.
Yeah, the real focus is on 3.2, right, which should be very interesting. Any other talks?
Yeah, interestingly enough, we had plenty of talks around DevOps, right, and continuous delivery.
That's another buzzword for 2016.
And seeing it in the Groovy conference, actually, it's a big deal, because usually those aspects won't pour into those pure, programming language conferences. So that's interesting as well, and that's what John's keynote was about.
Oh, right, the one at the end.
Yeah,
just an hour
right,
ago.
Right.
Very good. Any other talks that any of you can recall that we haven't mentioned or that you wanted to point out? What were you thinking of?
Jen Strader did a talk on doing automatic documentation with Spring Red stocks.
Right.
That was very good.
Excellent.
Yeah, I heard a lot of good buzz about it.
Yeah.
She gave that talk in Copenhagen as well, I believe, and it was very well received there also, as I recall. And I've missed it twice now, But the video.
We only care about Kotlin, that's why.
I did feel obligated to put in the show notes that I think it's Rob Fletcher, who was unfortunately not able to make it here, did a blog post comparing spec tests, the Kotlin one, versus Spock tests, just showing the similarities and the differences. So I will leave it at that. Just say there's a link in the show notes in case.
Good to have Kotlin advocate here on the show. Who will know about spec at all if you wouldn't bring it up?
And next year it'll be Kotlin puzzlers.
Oh my goodness. Well, no, if it's statically typed, there won't be any, it'll all be clear.
Sure, because Java, for example, there are no puzzles at all in Java. Yeah, of course not.
Anybody else have any talks they thought that we've overlooked that we didn't mention? Anything you attended that you really thought was fun or interesting?
Or any other comments about the show?
While you're thinking about that, I'll mention that tonight, of course, is the Great Ladies Meetup. I got my shirt ready. My Great Ladies shirt. And again, we have to. You don't have to, but I'm going to mention again that all the proceeds or your part of the proceeds or however it works from Dan's Learning Rat Pack book, which available now, is going to support the Great Ladies group, and that's a very noble cause, very good thing.
So you can buy the book, right, and then the royalties will go to Great Ladies, and then if you manage to skip the signature, you can actually sell it again and get your money back.
Mine's on eBay. Mine's on eBay at the moment. No. There was another thing about that. No, I think that's it. So the great, but several representatives of the Great Ladies were also here. Jen gave her talk, and then I met at least one other woman who is a member of the Great Ladies who was around. Anise Davis was here as well, talking about Android-related things, and also how to write Gradle plugins. So that was another interesting talk that I managed to get to.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that one was good. That's one of the ones that's on my list.
She's got an example that is really nice. I mean, she basically it turns out she normally uses like 3 code quality plugins like PND and Check Style, and there's a third one. And rather than having to copy and paste code into every project, she wrote an Android plugin that would automatically include all of those, plus expose properties. Gradle. I'm sorry, Gradle. Well, it was for her Android project, right. So it actually did make an assumption there. But the idea is that it allowed the user to customize where the files were going to be, so that you could put in your own rules and decide what you wanted to do. So in other words, it was a relatively small but very powerful and interesting plugin, and you got to see all the features of that and the extensions and all the other parts.
Yeah, that was a good talk.
Yeah. Anything else that you mentioned?
Craig Burt's ones were pretty funny.
Oh, yeah,
He was trolling Kyle Boone.
There is another iconic meme that we didn't bring up yet.
Right. Well, of course, the big one he did was, go ahead, you remember?
Kyle Boone is the worst?
No, that was also good, but I'm thinking of the Dane Cook bot.
Oh, yes.
Right? Is that he wrote a DSL so that he could, every time, it monitored Dane Cook's feed, right?
And monitor
all of Twitter, and anytime people use the word Dane Cook and sucks together, it responded with leave Dane Cook alone.
And it notified Dane.
And notified Dane, yeah. But that's not the best part. The best part was something, it came up later. Somebody tweeted to Dane Cook that he was being featured in a talk here, and didn't he actually respond?
Yeah, he did.
I thought I did see a response.
He did. He responded.
It's like featured or something like that.
He has no idea what's going on.
Yeah, in the oral history of Great Conf, this is going to go down, and it's going to be there's going to be a whole chapter on this.
Well, especially when we find out that Craig's been banned from Twitter.
But he didn't do it from his account, right? I guess he had some.
He made a special bot called Dane Cook bot special account.
That got blocked already.
That got blocked.
Fairly easy to tie those two together. But Dane Cook did block his bot because his bot would run and periodically give like an uplifting comment to Dane Cook.
I think it was every 2 minutes, actually, from what I was looking
Yeah,
at.
that's kind of a DDoS attack. Say something like, "Don't worry, Dan, we still love you."
Right.
It's 4 p.m. and everybody still loves you.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I'm glad.
The guy has no idea what's happening.
I'm glad you remembered that one. That's very good. Okay. Anything else, or any other impressions or comments you want to add? Because that's actually not a bad way to wrap things up.
I think we got it.
There's got to be a way to see how much time has elapsed on this. I've never figured it out.
Look at your watch.
I've got a
2 hairs past a freckle.
Internet of Things. Yeah, not there yet. Any other comments? I definitely want to thank you all for staying late like this, for hanging out. It's really fun to have
The only
audience.
reason they're here is that we have an hour to kill before the Great Ladies meetup.
They don't need to know that. It's good enough that they're here. They don't, and they couldn't have been doing anything.
You see, that's the difference between the Groovy community and the Kotlin community. We actually say the truth and we are transparent.
Ouch. Cut real deep.
You're trying to get us in trouble, aren't you? You're just a troublemaker. Yeah. Baruch speaks for himself, just so we know this. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, there are a couple other things in the show notes, but nothing major. I do need to mention that the homepage for the Groovy Podcast is on the No Fluff Just Stuff site. If you go to nofluffjuststuff.com/Groovy Podcast, you can see the podcast both on visual and audio form. This will go up on YouTube as usual. The audio podcast is distributed through all the normal channels, RSS feeds, iTunes, what have you. It's also hosted on Podbean, which is fine. The show notes are on GitHub and the Peter Ledbrook's account under Groovy Podcast.
And that's his contribution to the podcast those days.
Well, we wish him the best. He's taking a break at the moment. That's fine.
We hope he will be back as soon as
someday.
possible.
He will make his triumphant return, to the podcast, and we look forward to that.
But for now, thank him for the hosting the GitHub pages.
Yes, of course. Is there anybody else we need to acknowledge or?
Do you want to just mention the upcoming conference?
Yes, of course. So now when this conference is over, we all look forward to the next one.
Well, the next major one that I'm aware of would be the G3 Summit,
Yeah.
which is right after Thanksgiving in Fort Lauderdale, which is a really good combination, right after Thanksgiving in Fort Lauderdale.
Spring one's next week.
Spring one, but are we happy with them or not happy with them?
They accepted Dan as a speaker, so I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I'm
So
happy with them.
some people, yeah, some people are going. What are you talking about there, by the way?
Rat Pack.
Really?
Yeah.
They let you do that?
They-
Okay.
They let me do that. That's the thing they let me do.
They actually, to bring up Spring for a moment, Spring Boot released 1.4 today.
Yeah.
So that's brand new. And I know, just to show you how hot things are, in Grails 3.2, they're going to include Spring Boot 1.4. So the fact that it just got released today, it'll be wrapped right into Grails in next month.
It's a phenomenal.
Yeah,
release.
and with that release, you can also now take your pictures and put them into your app and have them automatically converted to ASCII art banner. There's
Right.
been really in an uproar about
Over the
about
top.
that feature.
Yeah.
Was that Craig? Who was that?
Yeah,
who-
That's coming
Craig-
from this community.
Yeah.
Correct.
That was Craig Burke pushed that, the idea of being able to put in ASCII art is the, what do you call that? The splash page? It's not exactly a
Well,
splash
you
page.
Spring banner.
Oh, the banner, right.
Yeah.
And replace the
You can
spring
You can
banner.
actually put a JPEG in and it will convert it to ASCII art.
Awesome.
That's too cool.
That's critical. That's critical feature for adoption. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to do that.
It really brings them to the enterprise level.
Enterprise great.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is.
It
Can
actually is.
Java 8 do that?
Oh, God.
No is the answer.
Here you go.
I mean, let's be clear.
Yeah. So, at any rate, so Spring Boot came out. 1.4 came out today. The Spring Framework released a milestone for the 5.0 release, which again is all about reactive, right? Has all that stuff in there. So here
Yeah,
that
Spring-
comes
Spring
one more
5
time.
is thumbs up.
And I believe Spring 5 isn't targeted for at least sometime next year. I believe it's going to go through a whole series of milestones and
It'll get out before Java EE 8.
well, yeah, okay.
That's a very low bar.
Yeah. That seems a reasonable bet. So upcoming is this. What are they calling it next week? What's the conference actually called?
Spring One
Spring
platform.
Yeah.
Spring One platform, right?
Yeah, and the reason why Dan is so happy about it because it's in Vegas.
It's in Vegas.
Where it's supposed to be 115
Vegas,
degrees
baby.
next week, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But who cares about degrees when you're in Vegas?
I don't care
Exactly.
at all.
Okay.
And speaking of conferences,
Yes.
Yes.
I know Great Conf India is the first week of January, weekend of January.
Yeah. The website only says January of 2017.
Yeah,
It doesn't
but
say when
the call for
specifically.
paper is open,
Right.
and
And we have dates for Great Conf.
and we have
EU.
dates for Great Conf Europe will be May 31st and June 1st and 2nd.
Yep.
And Greach will be somewhere in April, but I haven't heard the dates yet.
Well, both Great Conf ones you mentioned, the Europe one and the India one, are already linked in the show notes.
Okay.
So we've got that. No, I'm glad.
And
Brent, I
call
do
for
want to
paper.
mention it.
Call for paper is open for both of them.
Right. So be sure to take a look at the call for papers.
Keep
Feel
those
free to.
papers coming.
And where are you next, Ken?
Well, I've got a bunch more No Fluff events. No Fluff Just Stuff event. The Des Moines one is coming up, followed by Raleigh, and then a few others. But in this community, of course, I'll be at the G3 Summit, which supposedly stands for Groovy, Gradle, and Grails. I don't know. Andres would probably say Griffin instead. And of course, now that Guillaume Laforge is at Google, there's posts about Gaelic again. You know, so I mean, it's like every project in Groovy. There's only two major projects in Groovy I can think of that don't start with a G, right?
Red Pack?
One being Rat Pack and the other being Spock,
Right.
right? You know, where the G is either silent or I suppose it would be cloaked in that case, right?
Right.
All right,
And
the gags
speaking
are
about-
not working. Yes.
Speaking about Guillaume and getting back to serious Groovy work, he asks for ideas, the new features in rewriting the web console that we all know and use. So if you have some ideas or feature requests that should go into a new version, I guess pin him on Twitter will be the easiest way.
He also, and he also
One
did
of the features that I personally like is the button submit as a Groovy puzzler.
That's actually
Right?
pretty good, right?
Oh, yeah, it is.
But he also did a blog post where he used a big table and the API to analyze all these Groovy projects on GitHub, like searched over 1 million lines of code and was determining what are the most common imports, what are the most common AST transformations, you know, a whole bunch of it.
That's what happens when they gave them access to real hardware.
Right. Anyway, there's a link to that blog post in the show notes as well. So I think that covers pretty much everything. So this time I really will wrap it up. So thank you all very much for coming. Hope to see you all again. We'll do another podcast in a couple of weeks. So take care.